The courthouse lobby buzzed with its usual Monday morning chaos. Lawyers shuffled in, clutching stacks of files, while nervous clients whispered rehearsed lines under their breath. Amid the noise, one man stood out, not because of his presence, but because of his silence. Marcus Hale, a middle-aged security guard with broad shoulders and tired eyes, leaned against the metal detector. His uniform was clean but slightly faded, his badge dull from years of wear. To most people, he was invisible, just another guard paid to wave people through. But those who looked closely would notice something strange. Marcus didn't just scan the crowd. He studied it like a soldier on a battlefield. That morning, a sleek black limousine pulled up to the curb, the kind of car that didn't belong in front of a public courthouse, yet there it was, polished like a mirror. From the back stepped Victor Langston, a billionaire real estate tycoon, tall, silver-haired, his custom-tailored suit practically screaming arrogance. Reporters swarmed him instantly. "Mr. Langston, is it true the Department of Justice is investigating your company?" One shouted. Langston smirked. "False accusations. I'll clear my name." Marcus' eyes narrowed. He knew that smirk. He'd seen men like Langston before, men who thought power could bury the truth. As Langston strutted toward the entrance, his eyes briefly landed on Marcus. Just a guard, he thought. Harmless. But Marcus' hand tightened on his radio. Memories flickered, memories he kept buried. Not here. Not now. Langston passed through security, his entourage following. Marcus' gaze lingered on him, his jaw clenching. The rookie guard beside Marcus, a fresh-faced kid named Tommy, whispered, "That guy looks like he owns the whole damn city." Marcus didn't answer. His silence said enough. Inside the courtroom, Judge Miller took his seat. The prosecution laid out their case. Langston was accused of bribery, tax fraud, and using his empire to silence whistleblowers. It was supposed to be a routine pretrial hearing. But nothing about Langston's presence was routine. Marcus stood at the back wall, posture rigid. He wasn't required inside. Most guards stayed outside. But Judge Miller specifically requested him. "I trust Hale," he'd said. Few people knew why. As witnesses were called, Marcus scanned the room. His training never left him. He noticed details no one else did. How Langston's lawyer slid him notes under the table. How two of Langston's assistants kept shifting like they were armed. During a recess, Marcus stepped into the hallway. His chest felt tight. He'd promised himself he would never get involved again. Never step back into that world. But fate had a way of dragging you where you didn't want to go. Tommy approached him. "Hey Hale, you good? You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus forced a half-smile. Just an old scar acting up. But it wasn't a scar, it was a memory. Years ago, before the uniform, before the courthouse, Marcus had been something else entirely. Something Langston would never expect. When court resumed, a shocking moment unfolded. A young woman took the stand. A whistleblower who once worked for Langston's corporation. Her voice trembled as she testified. "Mr. Langston paid off inspectors, forged safety documents. People died because of his negligence." Gasps filled the room. Langston's jaw twitched, but he kept his polished composure. Then, as she finished, one of Langston's assistants shifted again. Marcus noticed. Too much movement. His instincts screamed. Suddenly, the man reached into his jacket. Marcus moved like lightning. Before anyone else understood what was happening, Marcus had tackled him to the ground. A gun clattered across the floor. Chaos erupted. Police swarmed in, dragging the armed man away. Judge Miller slammed his gavel, shouting for order. All eyes turned to Marcus. For the first time, Langston's mask slipped. His smugness cracked into something else, recognition. He stared at Marcus, as if seeing a ghost from his past. Marcus stared back, chest heaving, silent as ever. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The courtroom hadn't calmed down. Whispers filled the air, bouncing off the marble walls like echoes of fear. Judge Miller barked at the bailiffs to restore order. But even he couldn't silence the tension lingering after Marcus Hale disarmed the would-be shooter. Langston leaned back in his chair, smoothing his tie as if nothing rattled him. But Marcus caught the flicker in his eyes, a flash of recognition he couldn't hide. Why? Marcus asked himself. Why does he know me? During the recess that followed, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Cameras flashed, headlines forming before ink hit paper. Attempted shooting in Langston trial. The world outside buzzed with questions. But inside, Marcus leaned against the wall, silent as stone. Tommy rushed up to him. Man, you saved the judge's life. You should be getting a medal or something. Marcus gave a faint shrug. Just doing my job. But Tommy wouldn't let it go.
No, Ale.
That wasn't just instinct. That was training. The way you moved, that wasn't security guard stuff. Who are you, man? Marcus looked him dead in the eye. Some questions, kid, are better left unanswered. Back inside, Langston's defense attorney demanded a mistrial. Your Honor, this entire proceeding has been compromised by an act of violence. My client cannot receive a fair trial under these conditions. Judge Miller shot him down. Denied. This court will proceed. Langston's jaw tightened. He didn't like losing, but his eyes drifted again to Marcus. Later that night, Marcus walked home through dimly lit streets. The courthouse was behind him, but the weight of the day clung to his shoulders. He unlocked the door to his modest apartment. Small, tidy, and quiet. Too quiet. He pulled an old shoebox from the closet. Inside, beneath faded photographs and a military patch, lay a worn ID badge. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Special Agent Marcus Hale. Marcus stared at it, his reflection caught in the plastic sleeve. The past he'd buried for years wasn't buried at all. It was waiting, and Langston knew it. The next morning, Marcus returned to work. As he passed through security, whispers trailed behind him. Everyone had seen the news. Everyone wanted to know who he really was. But Marcus ignored them. His focus was sharp, locked onto one man, Victor Langston. When the trial resumed, the whistleblower continued her testimony. Documents were presented, bribes traced, offshore accounts linked directly to Langston's empire. The evidence was piling up, but Langston barely flinched. He whispered calmly to his lawyer, as though the case didn't matter. Marcus studied him carefully. That calmness wasn't arrogance. It was strategy. Langston knew something no one else did. During lunch break, Marcus slipped out into the courtyard. He wasn't hungry. His thoughts spun in circles. He lit a cigarette, something he rarely did, and stared at the city skyline. Behind him, a familiar voice cut through the noise. You haven't changed, Hale. Marcus froze. Slowly, he turned. Victor Langston stood a few feet away, alone, without his usual pack of lawyers and bodyguards. His smile was smug, but his eyes burned with something colder. Still playing the quiet soldier, Langston continued. But I know who you are, and I know what you did. Marcus' voice was low, controlled. You don't know a damn thing about me. Langston chuckled. On the contrary, you were the agent who dismantled half of my operations 10 years ago. Thought you could bring me down. But the Bureau didn't back you up, did they? They hung you out to dry. Marcus' jaw clenched. He didn't respond. Langston stepped closer. You disappeared. Became a nobody. A guard. But now, here you are again, standing in my courtroom. Fate's funny, isn't it? Marcus flicked his cigarette to the ground, crushing it under his boot. His eyes locked on Langston's. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat in his apartment, files spread across his kitchen table. Old case notes, names, connections. He hadn't looked at them in years. But now, every piece pointed back to Langston. This trial wasn't just about fraud. It was about something bigger, something darker. Marcus could feel it. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice came through. If you keep digging, Hale, you won't live to regret it. The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone, fists tightening. They knew. They were watching. The following day in court, Langston's attorney called a surprise witness. a former FBI agent. The man took the stand, polished and calm. "Mr. Hale," the attorney said, turning toward Marcus. "Do you recognize this man?" Marcus' heart sank. He knew him well. Agent Robert Vance. Once his partner. Now a traitor. "Yes," Marcus said slowly. "I know him." The defense attorney smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this so-called whistleblower testimony is meaningless. My witness will prove that Mr. Hale, your heroic security guard, was once an FBI agent disgraced and discharged for misconduct." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. All eyes shot to Marcus. Langston grinned. Marcus' world tilted. The truth, his past, was now dragged into the open. But as the crowd whispered, Marcus didn't flinch. He stood straighter, his voice calm when the judge addressed him. "Mr. Hale, is this true? Were you once an FBI agent?" Marcus looked Langston dead in the eye. "Yes, and I'm not done with him yet." The courtroom exploded. Judge Miller pounded his gavel for silence, but Marcus' words hung in the air like thunder. Langston's smirk faltered, for just a second. And in that second, Marcus knew one thing. The war had just begun.